Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Tuesday morning, the 9th of July. And we're sticking with the Jay Slater case again today. It's still big news. Jay has been missing since June the 17th. So we're into the 4th week. 19 years old. Was he wrapped up in something, wet behind the ears, easily taken advantage of? Went over to the Spanish island of Tenerife for the NRG Festival, left the NRG Festival after it finished with two guys, one of them called Oswaldtwistle, who is a convicted drug dealer here in the UK. We've had statements from Ayub that come via the Mail Online who spoke to him, and Mark Williams-Thomas, the investigator. I think he's lying. People have said in my comments, how do you know he's lying? Well, because he said Jay had nowhere to go. Jay did have somewhere to go. He had accommodation in Los Cristianos. There's just something I'm not happy with about Oswaldtwistle's story. Now, lots of people have jumped on Lucy May Law's story. So Lucy was the person who Jay spoke to last, allegedly, before his phone died. And she's the one who reported him missing to the police. In this video, we're going to talk about Lucy a little bit. There's a TikToker who's been talking to Lucy that I'm going to include as well. And I'm also going to answer some of your comments. All right, let's go.
For some reason, he goes with Ayub Kassim and this other mystery man for now, out 30 minutes away from Los Cristianos, up a very, very steep winding road into the mountains to a place called Masca. And there, they stayed overnight in a £40 Airbnb, which had been booked by Ayub Kassim.
Actually, the Mail Online posted this video of Ayub Kassim on a previous occasion at the same Airbnb. So it's a place he goes to. Now, loads of people have said, why would this man who's 31, apparently he works over there in a coffee shop? Is it his rapper friend's marijuana coffee shop? We don't know which coffee shop he works in. But why does he stay in this Airbnb up in the mountains? Does he like it up there? Is it that he likes hiking? I don't know. Is it that it's a quiet place where he can retire to, you know, a cheap place, and it's out of the way for his dealings? This is Ayub Kassim, apparently, allegedly, with two young men. I don't know when this was taken. So why is he hanging out with young lads? That's concerning to me.
And there are many, many questions, with many, many questions remaining unanswered. Why on earth did he leave Los Cristianos and drive up into the mountains with Ayub Kassim? What went on inside that Airbnb? And why on earth did he leave the next morning by foot instead of catching the bus? And by foot, he would have walked out of that Airbnb, turned on his Google Maps or his Apple Maps, and it would have told him that to get back to where he needed to be would have taken 11 hours.
Or it would have taken 20 hours if he followed Apple Maps. It does appear that he's walking in the direction that Apple Maps would take him. But yeah, it's a $10 million question. Why you went with Ayub Kassim and Kassim's friend? What went on in that Airbnb? Why does the investigator Mark Williams-Thomas believe that Jay was afraid when he left there?
He didn't head back down the mountain towards Masca. Why he didn't wait for a lift. The suggestion being at the moment from private investigator Mark Williams-Thomas is that he was scared of something or someone. And that's pretty much at the heart of this. We just don't know. There's no explanation. We've got various statements that have been issued by Ayub Kassim as to what happened, what unfolded. He says that Jay arrived at the Airbnb alive and that he left the Airbnb alive.
Ayub Kassim also told Mark Williams-Thomas that his friend went to bed immediately, that they got back there. He went to bed, was woken up by the buzzer, like the doorbell, and it was a woman. Presumably, it was Ophelia asking him to move his car because they got this hire car. As he went out to move his car, Jay spoke to the woman, i.e. Ophelia, about buses, and Ayub said, "It's okay, let me wake up and I'll run you back to town." Jay said, "No, it's okay, I'll get the bus," because they're every 10 minutes. Well, they're not. There was a bus at 10 a.m. But instead of waiting for the bus that he thought was coming every 10 minutes, he legs it off up into the mountain. I can understand why people are suspicious of it. Lots of people in the comments are saying the man on the steps was actually Brad. Now, look, I don't know. I can't confirm that Jay was ever in Masca. Everything leads me at the moment to believe it was Jay, but we've actually only got Mark Williams-Thomas's word for it that he's done the investigation, and Lucy and Brad. So, yeah, I can understand why people are suspicious that Jay was never in Masca, but if he was never in Masca, where is he? I personally believe he was in Masca. I personally believe it was Jay with his phone and his phone ran out of juice. I do personally believe that side of the story until definite evidence proves otherwise.
For now, as I say, there are more questions than there are answers, and that is probably at the very heart of it. What on earth happened at that Airbnb? That's crucial.
Yeah, it is. I agree. What happened at that Airbnb? Why you went there? Is it something to do with the stolen AP? This is what he sent on the way to Masca. Ended up getting thrown out of there. Me and two Marley kids just took an AP. So the two Marley kids, Quasim and his friend, presumably, took an AP off some person, and then they're on the way to sell it for 10 quid. Now, look, a quid has always been a pound for me. Now, if it's slang, if 10 quid actually now means 10 grand instead of 10 pounds, I don't know. I'm not a young person, so whatever. But that's the alleged Snapchat. Now, something somebody said to me is, didn't the police check all their phones to see whether they're telling the truth at the exact time? Is you would think so. That would be the first thing that the British police would do. They'd want Quasim's phone, his friend's phone. They'd want Lucy's phone, Brad's phone. The other person who spoke to him, Mark Williams-Thomas, said Jay spoke to 3 people. So was the other one Hodgie? I don't know. So they'd want that. Did the Spanish police do that? We don't know, because the Spanish police aren't telling us a thing, which is annoying. They could tell us some stuff that might put some of these rumours to bed, but they're not gonna, because that's how they work there. It's how they roll. One reporter said it's like Life on Mars, if you've ever watched Life on Mars, like the show. Yeah, it's Life on Mars policing. It's annoying, because the less they say, and I understand that there's things that they can't say, but the less they say, the more people fill that void with rumours. Absolutely the case. So what about Lucy? This girl here has been talking to Lucy on TikTok, so let's listen to her.
Lucy actually messaged me on the first day, about a week ago, when I put up that video that called her a liar. And she messaged me saying, well, what am I lying about? And then we got into a conversation which lasted about 4 days, which ended with me saying to her, I am not going to message you anymore because you're lying. And you basically messaged me back and kept me close to you so I wouldn't put out any videos about you. And she agreed, that's why she had.
So we've only got this woman's account for what she said in conversation with Lucy, but interesting.
So the conversation started on her official TikTok page. And I will show you the first message just to prove to it came from the TikTok page that is Lucy's. It came from this page. Okay, so it is Lucy's page. I've got no reason to lie about this.
People do lie because, they get views, but I'm not saying she's lying at all.
So the first message she sent me was, why have you put that video up about me? Why are you saying I'm lying? I'm not lying about anything. And then she said, I have a screenshot of this message of them saying this, the police. They told me over the phone to wait where I was and they would keep me updated. I don't know if this has come through back to front. Wait there, because I don't think that's the first message.
All right, sort your messages out. This is what Lucy said. Now, this was in the first few days. She spoke to a reporter, basically said that the police weren't taking her seriously.
So I just said, send me like a location. So he sent over a screenshot of his last location. So I went straight. The first thing I did when the phone had cut off was I rang the police.
Oh,
So I'd rang 911 and spoken to the people there, and they told me that they'd sent a helicopter out. But later on, I'd spoken to somebody who lived up in the mountains, and they'd said they hadn't heard any helicopters.
So who does she know up in the mountains? Who does she know 20 odd miles away? Was it Qasim? Well, was she messaging Qasim? I believe that the friends that Qasim intimated in the conversation he had with Mail Online is Lucy. That's what I personally believe. Because he said that he wouldn't have taken Jay up there if he was just some random stranger. Like, they have mutual friends. So who's the mutual friends? Brad, Lucy, Hodgie? What's the relationship here? What's the deal here?
So I think they just totally fobbed me off with that. I don't even think they did. So after like half an hour, I'd had no updates. So I rang back and I said, has the helicopter had any sightings of him? Has anybody seen him? Like, I'm really, really worried. They said no, they'd not seen anything. But they were like out looking for him. So I thought, right, I'm not getting anywhere with this phone call. Like, every time I'd ring the police, like, they just kept ending the phone on me. Like, they were just so unbothered by the full situation. So I thought, right, I need to get a taxi as soon as possible down to the police station and speak to them in person. So I got a taxi down to the closest police station. I was literally there within the hour of the phone call. There are people that come up here to hide. Like, I've seen so many people up here, and I've asked every single one if they've seen him, and nobody's seen him. And this is what I find weird, because if he'd have seen somebody or a car or a person, he would have either flagged down the car, he would have said to someone.
What's the relationship here? What's the deal here between Qasim and all of these young people that he hangs about with? Are they selling stuff for him? Is my question.
So it started with her message where she said, what am I lying about? And I said, you're lying about what time you contacted the police. You're lying about where you were when the phone pinged. You're lying about looking for Jay all day. And she said, no, I'm not. And I have a screenshot of this. They told me over the phone to wait where I was and they would keep me updated. After time passed and I got more worried, I went down to the police station to speak to them face to face.
Well, that's exactly what she said. She did say that.
And she said, the only thing I'm aware of that I've actually changed about my statement, thank you, Maria, is I changed the phone call. Yeah, thank you. She said, I changed the phone call being outgoing when it was actually, I changed it being an ingoing call when it was actually an outgoing call because we'd already caught her out.
She originally said it was ingoing, so Jay ringing her, but it was actually her ringing him. Well, maybe she'd been contacted by somebody, so she rang him. She has said different times. She said 8 o'clock. She said 8:30. She said 8:15. She'd know what time she rang him. And look, I believe that there was a conversation between Lucy and Jay. I believe that at least Mark Williams Thomas has done his due diligence in that regard. Look, it would be so easy to just check people's phones to see who they rang, at what time they rang, and for how long they rang. I've got to say that we're only believing Mark Williams Thomas here, and he has made erroneous judgments and statements to the British press in the past. We only need to look at the Nicola Bulley situation from last year, where I was proper annoyed with Mark Williams Thomas for standing next to the bench at the River Wire spouting nonsense. So look, as I said yesterday, I'm not saying that I believe Mark Williams Thomas, but I'm also not saying that I don't believe him. At the moment, he's all we've got. So I'm going to listen, but I'm going to keep an open mind. So here's a few of your comments. This one's from Sean. I've no idea what's true or false information about this. The drug dealer began as a rumour, then it turned out that that guy left with a drug dealer. Johnny Vegas was originally a guy with the drug dealer, and now he's the same drug dealer, and it's his nickname. I know! Yes! Originally, it was Oops Kasim and Johnny Vegas. Now, Johnny Vegas is Qasim. Another rumour is the guy with the dealer was the shit rapper Potty or whatever his name is, and he'd had a weed cafe robbed in Tenerife, and the missing lad was involved in that, and that's where he got the Rolex. But then that wasn't on the night of the rave and not stolen from an Eastern European man, as was said originally. Drug dealers and drug users are usually full of riddles. It's hard to get any honesty from either, really, and I'm kind of thinking the ex-copper Mark is just looking to further his internet sleuth career and get more famous. Well, I can't disagree, honestly, at this moment in time. Now, somebody else, Yvonne, said, the coffee shop is a cannabis haven and the owner is the second person that stayed in the Airbnb with Jay, who is currently unnamed. Now, I've heard numerous names for him, but I'm not going to repeat them because I don't know which one's true. It's an awful thought that it may be a recovery. I believe Jay has fallen into one of those deep ravines. I do. For whatever reason, he went off on his own. Was he scared? Did he believe he was being chased? Why did he go off the road? Why did he go down the Barranco Juan Lopez trail? Was he, as I think, possibly he saw the sea and he thought he could walk back to Los Cristianos that way? Or is there something more sinister as to why he went down there? If he was severely dehydrated, he would be at risk of having falls and his thoughts would be distorted. Hopefully, the new equipment the British are taking will have the means to look at the bottom of the caves, etc. Yeah, they need people to go down there. Mark Williams Thomas is full of, we know or we can confirm this, that or the other. Doesn't know anything. He only knows what he's been told by several people who may not necessarily be trusted. In fact, we know very little about Jay's movements since leaving the Airbnb. We know virtually nothing about his movements except for there was a phone ping, like a GPS location. Now that is verifiable. That is checkable. Now, some people, lots of people, believe that, the phone was there, but Jay wasn't. Okay, that's possible, I guess. But if that phone's been thrown into undergrowth, then someone go and find the phone. This also is worth considering. My view is that whatever happened to him wasn't an accident, no matter how much it's made to look like one. I think Jay got blinded by a lifestyle and a world he had no real understanding of, and didn't have a clue as to the rules which are in place in that world. I think he messed up and brought hell down on himself. I think he got recruited on the basis something about him, possibly his past, could have proved useful. However, it possibly proved he was a liability. I just hope that any young people thinking it's an easy way of making money, or because of the glamour, to look at this case. It's a very sinister, dangerous way of living, and one which very few people escape unscathed. I think that's very true. I'm not sure that Jay didn't have an accident. I personally believe that if Jay's in those mountains, then he's there of his own volition. I don't think he was murdered, but definitely the world that Jay was edging into is not a nice one. The Mail Online have been doing their own investigations into the shady underworld of Tenerife. I've made a couple of videos now about this dark, murky underworld. So I'm going to read a little bit of this. How the shady criminal underworld of Tenerife is rife with ruthless British drug dealers battling Italian Mafia for control of the drugs trade. A search for Jay Slater continues. Ruthless British drug dealers are fighting with the Italian Mafia for control of the drugs trade in Tenerife, where Jay Slater vanished 3 weeks ago. With no signs of Jay since he disappeared in the early hours of June 17th after a 3-day music festival, there are fears that he's somehow been sucked into the holiday island's murky underground world. Every summer, thousands of British tourists, mainly youngsters, head to the Sunshine Island to celebrate the end of their exams, drawn by the magnet of shady beaches, vibrant nightclubs, cheap alcohol, and even cheaper drugs. But beneath that seemingly innocent party scene, there is a bitter fight for control of the island's lucrative drug trade, with criminal gangs from Italy and the UK battling for supremacy in the supply of drugs in Costa Day and Playa de las Americas, where Jay was last seen. Italian crime gangs from notorious syndicates like the Mafia, Camorra and Nanghetta have long controlled the island's lucrative narcotics trade. Gang experts have said in the past Italian organised crime groups are increasingly working with local criminals to bring coke into Europe from Latin America, often using the Canary Islands as a staging post for illegal shipments. A Europol statement said these Ndrangheta gangs would routinely use violence and torture to intimidate their rivals. A trip along the hedonistic seafront Veronica Strip in the popular party resort of Playa de las Americas throws you into a world of pubs, nightclubs and cannabis bars, with street dealers pushing MDMA, ketamine, coke and who knows what thrown in for good measure, dipping into their bum bags, and mainly young dealers who have been recruited by Mr. Big pull out wraps of powder and pills. The streets are littered with little plastic bags. Gangs from London, Manchester and Liverpool have begun muscling in on the patch long held by Italian crime gangs, who are now turning increasingly to property and construction to launder their money. And it's known that J19 spent time in the company of convicted drug dealer Ayub Qasim. An expat source on the island said the big players are still the Italians when it comes to organised crime and money laundering, but now others are moving in and there are a lot of British gangs, mainly from London, Liverpool and Manchester. They know it makes sense as most of the holiday makers are from Britain, so they can hone in on them and it's a nice, easy transaction and makes them a lot of money. It's getting really tribal on Veronicas and it's not the sort of place you want to hang around too long in at night. I wouldn't let my daughter go there because it's a jungle. Organised crime expert Professor Anne Sergey said the feared Ndrangheta, said to be considered one of the most powerful organised crime groups in the world, is the main Mafia-type organisation operating in southern Spain. Professor Zergi told Mail Online, Camorra clans and some Ndrangheta clans are historically involved in organised crime in southern Spain mostly, with local groups and brokers of coke and hashish. It's also a place where drug money can be laundered. It's always about drug brokerage necessary because drug routes, and it's about some money laundering venture in real estate mainly from the Camorra. The Ndrangheta group tends to keep a lower profile than other mafia-type organisations, but it's usually successful. They reportedly made €53 billion profit in 2013 alone. Well, that's a long time ago, so what about now? Spain's Balearic Islands are well known for drug trafficking. A senior member of the D'Amico clan was recently caught running drugs into Ibiza. So the Balearic Islands are a separate set of islands on the other side of Spain. All of these Spanish islands are a problem because there's, young people out there partying. Ibiza's another one. So anywhere that tourists gather is a prime target for drug dealers. A member of the clan Massarella from San Giovanni in Teduccio, Naples, was recently arrested on drug offences in Gran Canaria, which is the island next to Tenerife. 8 mafia gangsters, as well as a Colombian cartel boss, were arrested in a major operation on Tenerife in December. An armed police raid on a Tenerife villa uncovered some 950 kilos of uncut coke, as well as a stash of weapons and €12,000 in cash. One of the last men to see Jay before he vanished was Ayub Qasim, who drove the 19-year-old back to his Airbnb in the early hours of June 17th. Qasim was jailed for 9 years in 2015 for being the mastermind of an attempt to flood Wales with Class A drugs. So he's not been out long, has he? He's not been out of jail long. So he's moved his operation to Tenerife. Close friend of Qasim is Jamal Bousba, a drill rapper who goes by the name of Potter Paper. We talked about him a couple of days ago. Bousba was sentenced to 5 years in 2018, so he's also only just got out, for running his own County Lines drug dealing network from East London, the area where he and Qasim grew up. He was involved in what Ipswich Crown Court told was the Frankie Line, which saw heroin and crack cocaine leave London and be distributed through Clacton in Essex. Clacton? Clacton? Who goes to Clacton these days? He now runs a popular cannabis store in Playa de las Americas called Potter's Garden. So is this where Qasim works? which sells multiple types of marijuana. When Mail Online found the club, 2 British men approached and asked, "What do you need?" before reeling off a shopping list. Not everyone in Tenerife is happy with his success. A video posted online in May shows Potter's Garden being broken into by a rival gang. Boosper's awards were ripped off the wall and windows smashed. The clip showed an intruder in the cafe saying, "We are live, we got your effing plaques." Then the camera pans to show a cabinet of mobile telephones and drug paraphernalia with the male voice adding, "Yeah, take all the pre-rolls, take all the effing weed as well. I'm taking the PS5 as well, you P. Thought you could do, bad boy. My show, man. Live. Oof. Crazy talk. The club is less than 10 minutes walk from Papagayo, the nightclub where Jay was last pictured in a trance-like state, and from where he left with Kasim and another man who's not been identified. There's no suggestion that the men are involved in Jay's disappearance, and Spanish police have deemed them as irrelevant, but there are undoubtedly a drugs element to the mystery. Honestly, I think indirectly there is. I think the $10 million question is, why did Jay go with those 2 guys? It's not because he didn't have access to his accommodation. There's a story in the news saying that Jay lost his keys and that's why he went with the 2 guys. Well, if he'd lost his keys, why wouldn't he just go to Lucy or Brad or Hodgie? Why go with 2 guys that he hardly knows? It doesn't make sense. So that's the massive unanswered question. Why did he go there and why did he leave there? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.